Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the League of Women Voters of Larimer County Candidate Forum. Tonight, we'll hear from the candidates running for the Timnath Council. I'm Mary Bowman from the League of Women Voters of Larimer County, and I will serve as the moderator this evening. This forum is being live streamed and recorded by the wonderful folks at Timnath City Government. The recording will be available later on the League's website, lwv-larimercounty.org, and also at vote411.org. For everyone in the room, please silence your phones. In addition, the use of cell phones to record audio or video is not allowed. The League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan political organization that encourages our members to be active in local government. The League does not endorse political parties nor candidates. When a League member is a candidate, they are treated the same as other candidates and not included in any part of the planning for the forum. 3 candidates are running for 2 at-large seats on the Timnath Council of 4 years and 7-month term each. All candidates are joining us tonight, and they are in order of appearance on the ballot, starting on my right, May Knackley, Luke Wagner, and Dennis Strakota. During the forum, candidates will have 90 seconds to give an introductory statement. Each candidate will then answer a series of questions and have 60 seconds for their answers. Then, at the end, the candidates will give 60-second closing statements. Candidates, we ask you to adhere to the time limits. To help you do that, a League member, Tom LaPointe, who is sitting there, will hold up a yellow sign to indicate when you have 15 seconds left. He will hold up a red stop sign when your time is up. And thank you to the audience for joining us, both in person and those watching at home. For our in-person audience, in order to allow the maximum time for questions, we ask that you do not express support or dislike for any answer or candidate. Please hold your applause until the end of the forum. The candidates have not seen the questions they will be asked this evening. Questions have been submitted via the Timnath website prior to tonight's forum, and League members have prepared questions. In addition, our in-person audience has the opportunity to submit questions for the candidates. League volunteers have provided you with cards. Please write your questions, 1 question per card, and then hold it up. A League volunteer will collect the cards and bring them to the League question sorters who are up front, who will edit for clarity and repetition if needed. We will most likely not have time for all the questions. Let's get going, and we'll begin with our 90-second opening statements from each of the candidates. Candidate Knackley, we will begin with you.
Good evening. My name is May Knackley, and I have lived in Timnath for 11 years. Now, I was one of the early residents of Timnath Ranch, and I have had the privilege with my 2 children to witness its growth from a small community to one of the fastest growing communities in northern Colorado. Before immigrating to the United States, I worked in the legal field abroad for over 2 decades. I worked in analytical, managerial, and advisory positions, including being an attorney. I worked on high-value infrastructure projects and financing projects, including water and reclamation facilities, power plants, debt restructurings post-2008, and contract negotiations, amongst many other things. Today, I work as a real estate professional, and that gives me an opportunity to work hand in hand and see how the challenges that people have in their communities. I don't have enough time, but I have 3 main priorities, and I have to stop. and I have to stop, so, yes.
Candidate Wagner?
Good evening. First of all, I'd like to thank the League of Women Voters for putting this on tonight. I'd also like to thank everybody that's here in attendance and those that are out watching this virtually. My name is Luke Wagner. I moved here with my wife to Timnath in 2016. Like many others, we moved to Timnath because we valued community and we wanted to move to a place for the quality of life. Professionally, I'm a healthcare administrator. I'm a business manager. I focus on FTE planning, capital investments, and strategic growth. That has helped me with my background. My background in healthcare administration has helped me focus on long-term planning and fiscal responsibility in my council decisions. As a council member, I am Mayor Pro Tem. I spent the last 4 years on council focused on responsible growth, infrastructure planning, and fiscal responsibility. I'm running for council because I believe Timnath is in a strong position, and I want to continue that strong position by making sure that we, as council, sorry, I saw the sign, and I'm running for re-election because I want to make sure that we continue our fiscal responsibility and continue to build on our strong growth.
Thank you. Candidate Strakota?
Thank you. I also want to thank the League for organizing this forum, as well as the attendees for your interest and participation. So Dennis Strakota is my name. I lived in Timnath with my partner Vicky for the last 3 years. Prior to that, lived in Fort Collins, and my experience is 40 years in state and local government. I was served as a budget and finance director for several different cities, special districts, and counties, primarily on the West Coast. And since moving here, I've been involved in a lot of community activities. Timnath attracted us because of its small town feel, as well as, at the time, more affordable housing. And we have been involved quite a bit since moving here, including having served on the board of Together for Timnath, a civic organization. I serve currently on the Metro Services District in Trailside, and also was involved in leading the efforts to get the Timnath Recreational Center approved by the voters this last November. So I think both my community involvement and professional experience will help me to contribute immediately to the council. Thank you.
Okay, now we will move to the question segment of the forum. Each candidate will have 60 seconds to respond to each of the questions. Candidate Wagner, we will start this round with you. And here's question 1. A survey by the town showed 81% of respondents felt there should be active interest in revitalization of downtown Timnath. What are your thoughts?
Yes, I appreciate that, first and foremost, that the town council continues to survey our residents. So I appreciate the feedback that our residents are always giving us, and that is what guides town council. So first and foremost, I appreciate our community feedback. Second, as a town council member, I've been a part of selecting the Main Street board. The Main Street program is very important to me, and it's important to our community. So I continue to support that Main Street board and the work that they're doing, and I will continue to support it. And that Main Street board should be the leader in how we revitalize our old town. As a council member, I think we can put forward budget to support that. Most recently, we have made a 3-year commitment to that Main Street board. So I think revitalizing that old town is important to me, and I will continue to support it.
Candidate Strakota?
I wholeheartedly endorse and approve the revitalization of downtown. I was very active in the Together for Timnath organization and helped get a graduate student at UC Denver to do a study of Main Street revitalization. And one of the main recommendations he made is that the town support and sponsor the Main Street program, which has been done. Secondly, I also recruited a graduate student to take a look at how to remake the downtown Main Street. So we had a student from the School of Architecture at UC Denver do that, and he came up with a big proposal to do that. I think the town needs to make some significant investments besides the recreational center to be able to realize the potential of downtown, which can become a gathering place for the community as a whole.
Candidate Knackley?
I wholeheartedly support the revitalization of Old Town. Old Town is the root and the identity of Timnath, and we need to refocus and shift our attention back to Old Town. We need to lay foundations for entrepreneurs, new businesses, and gatherings and cultural events. The rec center and the Timnath Lakes, they already provide a footprint and traffic to Old Town. So there has to be a focus bringing, and that can happen through bringing initially the stakeholders and engage them, and then draw a roadmap for a historic district overlay. Okay. Thank you.
Candidate Strakota, we'll begin this time with you for question 2, which is, what role should the town play in supporting power grid stability and preparing for increasing energy demands or disruptions?
So unfortunately, the town doesn't have much leverage when it comes to making decisions in terms of who's serving the community with regards to electricity and gas. But it doesn't mean that we can't press, in particular, Excel to be more conscious of the impact on residents. Certainly over the last several months, we've experienced, blackouts effectively. And at the very least, they could be giving notice to residents well in advance of when that's going to happen. I think we need to also explore and have Excel representatives available for discussion with the public here at Town Hall to talk about what kinds of things they might be able to do in the future to keep and make it certain that we have ongoing power available throughout the year.
Candidate Knackley?
The increase in rates in gas and electricity, that is decided on a state level. I do understand that Excel is now investing in underground connections as opposed to above ground, which is great, but I think that we can still influence the rates and the services by actually opening up possibilities for other electricity or energy companies to participate in servicing our community. Excel's franchise is not exclusive, which means that we do have an open door to invite other possibilities. Thank you.
Candidate Wagner?
So first, I want to acknowledge that this is a serious concern for many people in our community, especially people who have healthcare concerns. So I understand the concern here. I've been reaching out to our account manager through Excel, and the cost to bury a line is $3 to $6 million per mile of line. So there is a significant investment to make that underground burial per line, which I think is huge. But I think to Dennis's point that we need to continue to press Excel. We need to bring these representatives in, and we need to continue to encourage residents to write not only our PUC, but also write our representatives from Excel. I was out campaigning and I met two gentlemen from Poudre Valley REA, and I do think that there are other opportunities as well, to mention that May mentioned. So I do think there are opportunities.
Thank you. Now we'll move on to question 3, and candidate Knackley, you'll begin this round. The question is, Weld County is supporting a data center to be built in Windsor. What policy, if any, should Timnath pursue with Larimer County regarding data centers? Yeah. Yes, Weld County is supporting a data center to be built in Windsor. What policy, if any, should Timnath pursue with Larimer County regarding data centers?
I think data centers, as we can see across the nation, it's a huge concern on many levels. So the question would be for the Timnath area, do we need to have a data center that is going to have an impact on our water supply, on our electric demand, and also environmentally? Are we in need of that, or can we rely on other resources?
Candidates
Thank you.
Dakota?
So I agree with May. We need to really have a pretty lengthy conversation with our county with respect to what might potentially be done in Weld County. And I would hope that representatives from both the town and Larimer County would have some preliminary discussions to see whether or not it's something that's going to be, a significant investment that could have an impact on residents within Timnath. Certainly, this has been a concern across the country and will continue to be so. I'm a bit surprised that the State Utility Commission is not involved in taking a closer look at this and seeing whether or not it's going to affect rates across the board.
Thanks. Candidate Wagner?
So I agree. I think we need to continue to work with our regional partners, but I think the first step here in Timnath is we need to make these unwanted land use types and unwanted buildings. So, I think we can take steps here in Timnath to prevent them. And if you look at data centers for these giant warehouses, they're only bringing roughly in 10 jobs. So what we're getting for a data center is not a lot. They're going to use resources. They're going to put strain on a power grid that we just talked about, which is already strained. So I just don't see a benefit to our community for these types of centers. We kind of have talked about this as council, we put it out here in the front to say, is there something we can do? But I do think it's continue to work with our regional Larimer County, Fort Collins, Weld County, and Windsor to see what we can do to maybe think about these long-term as a region.
Thank you. Candidate Wagner, let's start with you for this round. And this is about metro districts. It's two parts. What is your position on metro districts? Part A, the amount of power they have to impose fees, taxes, and long-term costs to residents. And B, if elected, what actions would you support to increase accountability, improve transparency, and ensure those charges are fair?
So I'll just say I don't think 60 seconds is long enough to answer this. So I'll try to be really quick. I'm on a Metro District board for my community. And we have a master service plan here in Timnath. Currently, council is updating our master service plan. We are making it more strict for metro districts. So the fees, taxes, and power, we are updating that. We're doing things like mill levy updates, the combination both debt and HOA. We're going to do updates like they have to make sure that they're doing their board meetings here. We're doing across the board updates, planning for them to do all types of updates. And can you repeat the second part of that question? I'm sorry.
Oh, sure. And hold the time. If elected, what actions would you support to increase accountability, improve transparency, and ensure those charges are fair?
Thank you. Yeah, and I think most importantly, what we need to do is we need to have residents on these boards. So when we get residents on the board, accountability and transparency increases significantly on this. So that's first and foremost, and I want to do that by doing overlay districts. So when we have multiple districts that are being built out, we have residents on those boards from the start.
Next, candidate Knackley. Yes.
I am in fact very pleased to hear what Luke has to say at the Metro District. It's important to have transparency with the Metro District. Currently, Timnath Ranch bears a little bit above 45 mil in towards the Metro District. This is per resident. And I would like to see the town gradually diversify their fundings for new developments, because the strength that these districts have today is quite great, and we truly have no say in that. So a balanced approach would be diversifying our fundings and having transparency over the current Metro District's activities and operations.
Candidate Strakota.
Like Luke, I also serve on the Metro Services District Board. I haven't done so for about a year now. And one of the first things I, became aware of was the fact that there's not a whole lot of transparency to residents. And in fact, early on, when we bought our house, we had to be pretty assertive about getting information about the tax and fee impact of these districts. They serve a vital purpose. They're providing and funding infrastructure and maintaining facilities that the town is not able to do. And so they need to be, fundamentally preserved. But in reality, I think the town needs to be more assertive in terms of taking a review of the debt that they're issuing before they issue it, so that we make sure that those tax rates are reasonable. And then ultimately, monitoring the service plans when they're approved, so that we know that fulfilling their promises that they make to residents.
Thank you. And for our next question, candidate Strakota, you'll lead off. And it's about water. The town recently incurred a hefty increase in the cost of our water supply. How will you approach mitigating this?
This was also a concern for the Metro Service Districts as well. And landscaping irrigation is probably over half of our budget. And one of the ways that we're trying to address it, and I think that the town needs to, is finding and planting native vegetation, which is more drought resistant. We live in a semi-arid part of the country, and for us to be able to reduce our water consumption is going to be critical. The town has some advantage in that it can use and has access to non-potable water, but many metro districts don't have that access. And we need to find ways of encouraging, incenting, not only districts, but residents to convert their landscapes to drought-resistant vegetation.
Thank you. Candidate Wagner?
Yes. So just to be perfectly clear, the town does not supply water. We are not a water district. So the best way we can do this as a town is to, again, encourage water conservation. So recently, the state of Colorado passed several laws that the town has to follow. So we have to look at how the town uses water, and we're looking at that through several different methods. Encouraging maybe some land use development, land use that reduces the way that people can use their grass, looking at Tahoma 31, which is a more drought-resistant type grass. I also agree that I think that we should look at how we use our open spaces a little bit differently. Maybe we can better plan for that. But I also think that we should work with our water service providers for maybe some incentives, like we've got the garden in a box, maybe looking at slow the flow. But I do think that the town needs to encourage more water conservation.
Candidate Nackley?
So our water supply is provided mainly by two water districts, East Larimer County and the Fort Collins and Loveland water districts. I believe the major increase in costs comes due to the infrastructure readiness not being on par with the development approvals. So the expansion costs, the investments that they bear, they are ultimately carried by us. East Larimer County District increased by 31% from 2023 to 2025. FCL, they increased 43% since last year, and that is great, but that is due, in my opinion, to the speed and pace of growth.
Thank you. Candidate Nackley, we're going to begin with you for this round. And the question is also about water. What landscape standards should Timnath have relative to water use restrictions?
I believe we need to encourage xeriscaping. As Luke referred earlier, we do have programs that encourage residents to migrate to those plans. I believe we need to invest in and encourage native vegetation and try to veer away from lawns and vegetation that requires a lot of water. Thank you.
Thanks. Candidate Wagner?
Yeah, I think first and foremost, as we look at how landscaping standards are changing throughout Colorado, when we first started here in Colorado, Kentucky bluegrass was just not made for Colorado. I think we can look at different ways so people can continue to enjoy what they've come to know as their home and green grass with more drought-resistant grass, like I mentioned, Tahoma 31. But I do think we should look at different types of flowers, more drought-resistant trees, more drought-resistant type landscaping. There are other ways to get to this than just what we've known, and I would still encourage, as we look at our, again, like our land use code, our development design, that we push for a more water conservation focus.
Okay, thank you. Now we're already at our seventh question. Oh, sorry, apologize. Candidate Dakota.
Thank you. So one of the things that we're doing in the district the board that I serve on is experimenting with some test areas to plant native vegetation, wildflowers, and trying to reduce the amount of turf lawn that we have within our neighborhood. I think it's something that the town needs to take a serious look at in terms of its own parkland. Currently it's principally grass, and I realize that, when we have playing fields that, it's going to have to be that kind of turf. But in many other areas, we have an opportunity here to convert to more native landscaping that will help, conserve water. So I think the town needs to make it easier for residents to be able to make the conversion to a more drought-resistant vegetation and apply those same standards to itself.
Candidate Wagner, we'll start this round with you. Here's question 7. From county records, most of the available open spots in Old Town are on septic. What is your position on forming a metro district to get the area on public sewer? Title 32 developed to provide a funding mechanism to allow a district to be formed to provide needed services.
It's a really good question. I know in the past we've done a significant project to get Old Town on sewer. So it's not something that hasn't been done before, but I would need to look at the long-term cost of that, evaluate how many homes that would be on, what kind of funding that would take. Obviously, a metro district, as we've talked about, is complicated. So I think if we were to look at that, there's a lot of thought that needs to go into that, more than just bringing that forward. So I think that I would support investigating that before initially just jumping into that.
Candidate Strakota?
I think we need to have, a good inventory of what our current water and wastewater systems are within the town. It hasn't necessarily been done, and I think that would be a first step in terms of also figuring out what would be the most effective and efficient way of being able to bring sewer service to those areas that are not currently receiving it. And it's certainly something that we need to take a hard, long look at with regards to development of our comprehensive plan and what areas that we need to make investments through either the sanitation district or through the use of metro service districts to be able to ensure that those services are available.
Thanks. Candidate Knackley?
This is considered part of the historic district framework that the town and stakeholders of Old Town and even regional partners should sit and discuss. the town today is not as young as it was 15 years ago, where it desperately needed metro districts to build its infrastructure. It is in a far better position today to diversify its fundings into infrastructure, and it would be a trap for Old Town residents and future businesses to have a metro district control their supply and their rates and their connections. Thank you.
Thanks. Candidate Strakota, we'll begin this time with you with a question about traffic. Share your thoughts about traffic flow and congestion in Timnath, especially the Harmony Road corridor.
Well, that's an easy one. I say facetiously. Certainly, Harmony is a throughway for a lot of towns east of us, and through its expansion, it's been able to. The town has been able to manage that flow to a certain effect, but it won't take long before it becomes much more congested. My proposal, and one that I was proposing to the town as long as 2 years ago, was to get some of the heavy truck traffic off of not only Harmony but in the neighborhoods. And I suggest that we go to creating a single hauler system so that we can get the 4 or 5 garbage trucks that are running through our neighborhoods, which are having an impact not only on streets, but also on pedestrian safety, vehicle safety. And
thank you.
I think that needs to be applied to other types of traffic as well.
Candidate Knackley?
Transportation and traffic congestion comes hand in hand with rapid growth. What we need to go to moving forward is responsible planning, where we pace it in line. We pace development proposals in line with infrastructure capacity, and it's not for the immediate solutions, but it's for decades to come, because today we are suffering from planning a decade or so ago that did not think of the impact it had. And hence we have the project of the Harmony expansion and County Road 5 expansion. That is a simple result of unplanned growth. And thank you.
Candidate Wagner?
So there's a lot of cars that come down Harmony, and a lot of those cars are not from our network or from our residents. So 60,000 cars come down there, obviously 12,000 residents here in Timnath. On council, I've supported upgraded data analytics, traffic networks, upgraded cameras, and we're also doing a virtual traffic network. So once we connect Pulse to those traffic cameras, we're gonna have better analytics. We'll be able to do on-the-fly changes. We'll be able to get traffic flowing better. What's most important to think about is, as we look at Harmony, we need our other communities, our surrounding communities, to build out their networks as well. We talked a lot about, should we make Harmony 6 lanes? But we don't want to do that, because then all their traffic will continue to push to us. So we need those other communities through our partnerships that we've talked about previously. We need to encourage them to build out, County Road 14. We need them to build out 392, because we don't want them to push their traffic to us as they're doing now.
Thanks. We have more questions coming up about development, water, and power, but I want to take a question about communication right now before we turn to those. And Candidate Knackley, we'll start this round with you. How will you engage all residents and ensure the community stays informed about developments and decisions in our town, including residents who do not use social media?
The solution to that is simplifying communication and broadening our outreach. We fail to keep in mind that the demographics of our community covers those who do not have time to go on websites and social medias to find the information, and those who don't feel comfortable going on these social media platforms. So the question is, how do we reach them? How do we get them involved? We get them involved with awareness workshops. A lot of residents, they don't know what the color codings of development proposals mean and what they can do to participate and have their voices heard. So there's a lot to do with communication and connecting with the community and having them involved and feel their voices are heard.
Thank you. Candidate Strakota?
I actually think the town does a pretty good job of outreaching to residents, especially over the last couple of years. And I would just like to see that expanded to include the information and the communication that the town does with regards to its annual budget. So we have a $100 million annual budget, but we effectively hold one public hearing on the budget. In other communities where I've been the finance director or budget director, one of the things that we did was hold a budget workshop so that members of the community not only had an opportunity to make their voices heard on the budget, but it was an interactive discussion that went on between town staff and residents. So I would extend it that way. I think the town has done a good job otherwise.
Candidate Wagner?
Yeah, I really appreciate the work that town staff does on this, first and foremost. You know, we have worked really hard through workshops, through our community events. You know, staff goes out there and they're present at those events. If you see, there's sticky notes, there's dots, there's all these ways for a community to give feedback. There's newsletters, there is social media, there are different ways for community to give feedback. We go to council chats, there's emails, there's council events. I do think as council we can, you know, continue to increase the amount that we're out there. As I'm out campaigning and meeting with residents, I think that there's a lot of people that don't have time. So I think that we can put ourselves out there more often, more frequently. Maybe we can go out and be at those community events. When I went to a Fort Collins event, they had council sitting at those events, and I think us as council can go and be at those events as well.
Thank you, Candidate Wagner, and we'll start with you for this round, which is already question 10. How would you characterize Timnath's economic development strategy, and what would you do as a council member to diversify Timnath's tax base and attract businesses?
Yeah, so I think Timnath's economic development strategy right now, first we have a plan right now where we have a reimbursement policy that is pay as you go. So we reimburse businesses based on what they currently pay in, and we reimburse them. I think we can do a better job attracting businesses by putting ourselves out there, looking to our neighboring communities like Windsor and Johnstown. We worked on a policy through the Main Street Committee where we looked at, can we attract grocery stores? Can we put ourselves out there and just say, we want businesses open during the night in Old Town, and can we incentivize them through that policy? I think there's opportunity to really focus on the businesses that we want and develop our incentive policy to strive towards those businesses.
Candidate Nackley?
Building on Luke's, we need to have a stronger commercial tax base. We also, I believe, from talking to a lot of businesses, I believe they face a lot of barriers and impediments to wanting to invest, to being able to invest in Timnath, and it is important as a town that we actually focus on trying to remove these impediments and make it more inviting for commercial businesses to lay ground here, because that also helps and adds and strengthens our economical strength. Thank you.
Candidate Strakota?
So this is one of the areas where I think the town needs to make some major improvements. I don't think we have a cohesive economic development strategy. And the only way that we're going to attract businesses, whether it's retail or industry, is to create a economic development director, somebody who has an experience in attracting those types of businesses to the community, getting the right ones for the right places, rather than simply reacting to developers that come in with proposals. The town relies on sales tax for 40% of its revenues. That is something that should be alarming. It's not unusual, but if we want to keep those revenues and resources here, we need to be more aggressive with developing incentives for the right kinds of businesses to locate here.
Thanks. Candidate Strakota, you'll be first for this next question. How is the town going to acquire new supplies of water to support new development?
Good question. I think, we're really wholly reliant on, the water districts to be able to provide those resources. And I think it's working in conjunction with the districts to make sure that they'll be able to supply new developments within the area, within the town limits, and to make sure that we have adequate supplies to be able to grow. And I think it's an issue that certainly the water districts are concerned about. And as we talked about before, certainly water conservation is going to be a big part of that. But also, it's going to rely upon funding at both the federal and state levels to be able to develop water resources that we have within the region, and to make sure that the infrastructure is in place to be able to provide that to our specific area.
Thank you. Candidate Wagner?
Yeah, I agree. We are not a water district provider, but I think there are a couple steps we can do to ensure water security for Timnath and our residents. One, I think we can require metro districts to do non-potable water. There are pros and cons, but it is a reduced cost for our residents. The other that we can look at is when we have a development, we can look at developers and have them stop giving away their water when they acquire the development and stop shipping that out. So I think it's really important that as developments are sold, that we keep that water here in northern Colorado.
Candidate Knackley?
In water supply is again controlled by the water districts, and the town has little say in that respect. However, it does have a strong say in preliminary infrastructure talks when we have developments, and that is ensuring that there is infrastructure readiness, which includes the water and how they acquire the, whether they have water rights, the districts, and where they're acquiring these from. Conservation efforts, yes, I believe we do need to look more into implementing non-potable water and making it actually mandatory, potentially, for metro districts to invest in. Thank you.
Thank you. And Candidate Knackley, will begin this round with you. And here's the question. What can the town do to make sure residents have easy access to accurate information about power outages? Duration, extent, etc. Can the town website have a link?
The town website, I would suppose they can have a link, but I think Excel does a good job in letting people know when there are outages and when they expect them to be repaired. We need to put more pressure on the power company to reach out way ahead of time and to actually remove any possible risks that they would have to mitigate because of issues that may environmentally cause these outages. Thank you.
Candidate Wagner?
So I think I'm going to approach this from a different angle. So I think the website is not maybe the best place for this. I think Excel can continue their communication, but I look to our emergency preparedness that we do in the town, and that we work with the Larimer County on this. We've been working very hard in the town to set up our emergency preparedness, work with our regional partners. And I think by working with those partners, you can sign up for texts, you can sign up for alerts, you can sign up for that. And that's probably the better way to go about this, rather than putting on a town website that may be down if people lose internet connection, if they're at, and who knows if the town's gonna have power in these situations. So I think the better place for this to be is through our emergency preparedness and working with Larimer County.
Candidate Strakota?
Yeah, I think that, communication obviously needs to come from Excel. It doesn't mean that we couldn't have a link to the Excel website, but, they need to reach their customers and notify them in advance when they're going to have power outages, planned power outages. And obviously, just getting back to the earlier question about, how do we manage that? Certainly, I fortunately live within a neighborhood that's served by Poudre Valley Rural Electric Association, and we don't have those. And I think with Excel, the issue is with their transmission lines and the power potentially that's going to be cut off along those transmission lines. But ultimately, they need to be communicating with their residents, their customers. We can certainly press them to do a better job of that.
Thank you. We're now up to question 13, and Candidate Wagner, we're going to start this round with you. 11 years ago, a plan for an artisan/creative village was approved. Are you committed to making it happen?
So I think as we look at the Artisan Creative Village, it was a vision. And I think where I look to put that artisan vision is as we build the rec center. So we've got the rec center going in, and there is additional acreage where we can look to do that. So I am committed to putting even cultural arts in our rec center, some of our heritage that we look for the rec center. And so I think the Artisan Village, where that vision was going, is now going to be the rec center. But so we do have additional acreage where we can continue to build on that. So I think the vision that we have in that dream book may not be the same, but I am looking to that additional acreage to put something like that, but we have to continue to plan for that.
Candidate Strakota?
Yeah, this is one of the areas where I think the town needs to make a larger investment. We're spending close to $100 million on a rec center, which I was a strong supporter of and led an effort to get the ballot measure approved. But I don't think that we can simply drop that center into the outskirts of Old Town and expect that it's going to generate some economic activity. The Artisan Village, I think, has a place, and we need to be able to design that in conjunction with the design of the rec center. I'm not sure what the town's doing with regards to that, and I would have some concern. I think that we need to have a comprehensive master plan for downtown to see how all those facilities link together.
Candidate Knackley?
Having the rec center and the current Timnath Lakes, that brings traffic to Old Town. I believe that with the historic district framework, there is room for a pedestrian street in Old Town where investment is done to the streets, to the pavements, to the vegetation, to the businesses bringing entrepreneurs, and that is something I believe many have a sentiment for. It also is economically beneficial for the town itself, with all the revenue that would come from the rec center and the people that jog and walk through Old Town.
Thank you. Candidate Strakota, we're going to begin this time with you on a question about sales taxes. There are reports that Walmart may build a store in Windsor and that Costco may build a store in Loveland. What impact, if any, would this have on Timnath's sales tax revenue?
It's not clear what the impact is going to be. Obviously, it's likely to draw some sales away from those stores. I can't imagine that either one of those big box retailers are going to, build stores that are simply going to draw sales significantly away from Timnath. But here's an example where we need an economic development director. The reason why those stores are going to be built in other communities is because they have staff attracting to them, those retailers, to their area. And we're going to be behind the 8 ball if we don't do the same thing here to make sure that we don't lose those sales. Again, sales tax is 40% of our general fund, and we need to be concerned about whether or not we're going to see that siphoned away.
Candidate Knackley?
We do need to diversify our revenues. Timnath does rely greatly on these two stores, and in the past few years, other big stores that have come into play. Potentially, yes, sales tax will be decreased as a revenue for Timnath, potentially. But that is, again, why we need to diversify the businesses that we rely on in our revenues, and not be basically controlled by one or two mega stores.
Thank you. Candidate Wagner?
No matter, there will be a draw on our sales tax. That will happen. But if you look at our sales tax contributors, we have Costco, Walmart, and number 3 is Amazon. So as we continue to grow, we have Amazon coming up very quickly on that. So I think it's important to, when we look at what council does, we budget very fiscally conservative. We budget a 4% growth every year, which is very conservative. So when we look at the impacts that are going to happen, yes, they're going to happen, but we outpace that growth every year in our revenue. We beat it. And so we look at the rec center. We did that very conservatively. We look at our growth in our FTEs. We do that conservatively. We do all of our finances very conservatively. So will there be a draw? Yes. Should we beat all of the numbers of that? Yes. But we need to understand that when we talk about diversifying businesses, I completely agree, and we need to do that through several different other methods.
Thank you. We're now ready for our final question. And candidate Knackley, you'll begin this round. And it's about flock cameras. Timnath currently uses flock safety software for a number of cameras across town. What policy should Timnath have regarding how this data is used, and what agencies should be allowed to access it? You can ask me to repeat the question. We need to get started, so. No, I mean, we have the order. I'll give you a second by repeating the question. Timnath currently uses flock safety software for a number of cameras across town. What policy should Timnath have regarding how this data is used, and what agencies should be allowed to access it?
I believe agencies on a state level that contribute to traffic control, on a regional level too, those are the ones that should have the access to this information. Thank you.
Candidate Strakota?
Yeah, I think access should be limited for public safety purposes. So I don't think we should necessarily be using them to monitor activity within the neighborhoods, but rather if there has been specific criminal activity within a neighborhood, those certainly can serve a purpose. And I think it should be then limited to our police department and potentially other public safety agencies that if it involves cross-jurisdictional issues. But I don't think it should be shared with any other department within the town.
Candidate Wagner?
I spoke with Chief Scott about this. So there are state statutes that guide who we can share this data with. First of all, we don't share with federal agencies the flock data. Second, we audit all the data that comes in and who views our flock cameras. Third, we have lawyers review our policies so that we are up to date on that, both with state statutes and our internal policies in here within the town. One thing that we do need as a town is a transparency page. So that shows who we're sharing the data with. That needs to be published. If you look at other towns that have flock cameras, they do talk about who they share with. And I think that's really important to know for our residents. If you look at, say, Aurora, Denver, they have those transparency pages. So I do think that we should update that. But I'm very happy to say that we do not share with federal agencies and we are guided by state statutes.
Well, thank you, candidates, for your answers to the questions. Thank you to everyone in the audience for all the wide-ranging questions. We're now ready to turn to our 60-second closing remarks. And we'll begin the closing statements with you, candidate Strakota.
Thank you. Once again, I want to thank the League for sponsoring this forum, as well as members of the audience, both here and online, for your questions and interest. My interest in running and eventually potentially sitting on the council is twofold. One, I have a background and experience that I think is unique. I spent 40 years in state and local government finance. I worked for councils, dozens of councils in cities, counties, and special districts. I was their chief financial advisor on a number of matters. So I have experience that I think would serve the town well. And beyond that, I think also my community involvement. I moved here just 3 years ago, but I've been actively involved in community projects through Together for Timnath, the Metro Service District in Trailside, and also with regard to helping to get the ballot measure passed for the rec center. Thank you so much.
Candidate Wagner.
I want to thank everybody again for coming out tonight. Thank you to the League of Women Voters, and thank you everybody who's watching virtually. For the past 4 years, I've been focused on responsible growth, fiscal responsibility, water conservation, protecting our town's finances, and making sure our infrastructure grows with our development. I want to thank our fellow candidates for running. When we have when all three of us come out here, we have a diverse set of opinions, we have a diverse set of perspectives, and it's important for that in a healthy community. It's been an honor serving the town of Timnath, and I would appreciate and really take the opportunity to serve again.
Candidate Knackley.
Thank you to the League and to the audience in person and virtually for being here. I am very passionate about Timnath and the welfare of its residents. I am heavily involved in my community on a personal level. I hear people, I hear what they say, and I want to be that person who makes their voices loud and heard. Timnath right now is at a point where any decision we make today is going to impact us for decades to come. And I want to make sure that growth happens responsibly also with the engagement of its residents, so that it grows the way they would want it to be, because it is our home at the end of the day. Thank you.
Candidates, thank you for helping us understand where you stand on the issues facing the Timnath Council. To our audience, both here and at home, thank you for taking the time to become informed voters. Election day for the Town Council is Tuesday, April 7th. People may vote in person or by mail. Mail-in ballots are due by April 7th at 7 p.m., and postmarks do not count as the received date. In addition, completed ballots can be dropped off at the ballot drop box located at Timnath Town Center, 4750 Signal Tree Drive. In-person voting will take place at the Timnath Town Center on Tuesday, April 7th from 8 a.m. to 7 p.m. And you can find more information on the town's website, timnath.org, timnath.org. This brings us to the conclusion of the forum for candidates running for the Timnath Council. On behalf of the League of Women Voters of Larimer County, we thank you candidates, the League volunteers, Timnath Town staff, and our audience for joining us this evening. I'm Mary Bowman. Let's go vote.